Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hey,
Good.
everybody.
This is Austin. Welcome to People's Voice Network, and this is Austin. Welcome to People's Voice Network, and this is Austin. Welcome. What is going on?
There's an open tab somewhere going on.
Austin, welcome. What is going on?
There's an open tab somewhere going on.
Okay, it's not me.
There's an open tab somewhere going on.
All right, so we're in hell loop. All right, so we're in hell loop.
It's you, Austin.
Caps.
It's you, Austin.
I don't have it open.
Caps.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna remedy this.
Do you have YouTube? Are you watching this on YouTube? Because I know sometimes like that happens to me. Like I'll not meet the YouTube video, and it'll be a loop on myself.
I thought I closed everything out. So, hi. That was
Hi.
2 minutes of everybody's life that no one gets back. Welcome to the People's Voice Network. I'm Austin. We got Novi, Z, and a guest tonight, Andrea. Y'all know us. Andrea, would like to introduce yourself a little bit. Do you have any good ideas?
Yeah. Lots. No, not really. I don't really have a lot of good ideas. Sure. My name's Andrea. I spend my time kind of doing piecework, helping build and fund schools and developing nations, clinics, stuff like that. I'm an international communications person, so I do a lot of like behind the scenes stuff, speech writing and stuff like that for my boss. Fundraising when I can't get out of it. I really like to not do that. I'm a PhD student and study peace and conflict stuff. So I'm a war specialist, and they spent the last, especially since 2016, learning about how we don't go to wars, how we don't have civil wars, the things we need to do to not have a civil wars. So that's what I do.
That sounds perfect for living in the United States. Being an expert in war, you're going to do well. You're going to do well.
I don't. It doesn't. It's not the kind of thing people like to talk about or think about or hear about or So academia is like that. They like us to stay in academia, like at our desks, where no one has to listen to what we say. And then when something terrible happens, they're like, "Why didn't you warn us?"
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is right. I think they warned us about the difficulties that people were going to have with COVID over the long run, and those things are happening.
Yeah, academics,
Back to rights,
right?
But
We warned you about Trump too.
Well, since we already took a couple minutes of me in a feedback loop that I don't know how it happened, but it did. We're going to get to a little Twitter tweet from Case Study QB, always throwing out awesome stuff. Little context is Dr. West, and he's talking to Mr. Maher, Mr. Bill Maher. And yeah, let's hear it.
You think of it.
Yeah, so this list is like so ridiculous, and it's just like, especially when he's like there's like no real like substitution for anything, and the cash relief programs are all gone as well, and it only cut half of child poverty in half. Like, so it didn't even cut full child poverty, so that it was still like milquetoast. He's given all the reasons why Biden's milquetoast, and he doesn't even realize it.
Right. that's what I was thinking when I was looking at this. Aren't these all like half measures and or just performative?
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Kind of, because you have to get something through Congress, right? So,
Right.
although what he doesn't have to do is have people in the DOJ arguing that police violence shouldn't be something they can be sued for because it's actually a prosecutor using evidence that shouldn't be illegally obtained evidence. So the people you need to sue are the prosecutors, not the cops. There was a fight up. There was a case in front of SCOTUS a few months ago about the Miranda. And instead of arguing just about Miranda entirely, he also, the DOJ, the lawyers for it, started arguing that really you shouldn't be suing cops for using evidence obtained outside civil rights because it's prosecutors. And I was like, well, that's the biggest fucking bait and switch I've ever seen. You know, on one hand, you're talking about justice, and on the other hand, you're talking about removing the citizens' ability to hold the police accountable for using illegally obtained evidence.
Right, and doesn't that by extension eliminate, or at least if I remember correctly from reading that, doesn't that eliminate the necessity behind doing the Miranda warning or
I think that's what they're arguing.
or
we
basically
went over
saying
that
a
Supreme
lawful
Court.
search and seizure to begin with.
We went over that Supreme Court decision a couple weeks ago. The one
Oh
that
my God.
went under the radar, the one that talks about like they can illegally obtain evidence, and then because of states' rights, they can keep the person in jail regardless of if it was false evidence or not.
Well, and let's not forget about last week. They came out with, they just basically threw the Fourth Amendment straight in the trash. They're like, yeah, Border Patrol, totally. 100 miles from every border, and just bust into your house, no warrant, and beat the crap out of you. Like,
right.
I know we still have the Second Amendment. I don't know which ones we have after that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but the 100 miles from the border also includes things like international airports. So like LAX, Baton Rouge International Airport, New Orleans International Airport, Atlanta, New York, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are considered to be international borders because they go outside the country. So that's 100 miles between them. So it's not just like where a lot of the cities are. It's most of the interior as well.
Yeah, if my entire state is considered, they could just bust into my house or the house next door or the.
They do it already.
Now it's just like completely.
Now you just can't even sue them for it.
Yeah, now it just happened. You can't do anything.
You know what I'm very happy about though is that diversifying law enforcement worked. You know, I'm happy about that.
I know, and directing them to fix racism as if they were the cause of it.
I wanted to say something about what he was talking about with the billionaire that came in. And what's so interesting to me is that that's completely wrong. It's completely wrong. It actually had nothing to do with that dude's money. So here's what happens. Because male supremacy crosses every single demographic. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, but your ethnicity, your race, your age, it crosses every single demographic. So you actually had to trace this back to 2016. Hillary loses, but 2018, radical shift in how Congress, radical for if you are a man or white, right? What did we see? Legions of women of color ran for office and got elected. At that point, a timer in my head kicked in. And I said, Trump's numbers with men in this country across the board are going to increase in 2020. And they did, because it's not a response to money. It's not a response to, it's sexism. It's misogyny. It is a system built on male supremacy. And that system is the foundation of this country. Now, there are other things that go along with that foundation, but the absolute reality is across every demographic, male supremacy is upheld. So when I see something like that, that's not actually a response to him having a lot of money. That's a response to him being a man And the shifts in this country have still continued, no matter what we've done. And by we, I mean them, because they're fucking bastards, to try to restore that male supremacy. Because, so like when we talk about white supremacy, right? Okay, so we all know for an absolute fact, when we look at the numbers, that white supremacy hasn't really been all that threatened, right? Is there any one of us going to sit here and say white supremacy has really faced any real threat?
No. If
No.
any
Not to
leader
mention the country
consolidates
is still,
power,
no matter, the country is still 70% white. So
Yeah.
But
we live in an ethno state. We live in a white ethno state. So
Correct. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So perfect. So when we look at that, but can we say that there have been some shifts to where the white ethno state is not allowed to operate with impunity and negative feedback anymore?
There's definitely been more
There's
calling
pockets.
out. There's
right?
more pockets, and there's more, at least on the surface, there's more recrimination for immoral and unethical behavior. But
Right. We talk about it.
yeah, but in terms of actual substantive change,
Right.
nothing's
There
changed.
hasn't been.
really
Right?
hasn't been.
So even though there hasn't been any real change, just being able to, like, being forced to talk about it has resulted in what we're seeing now, right? With these ethnic suicide shootings, with these or like ethnic targeting shootings, and all these, like, this mad propaganda. Nothing has changed, but just having to talk about it has resulted in these increases in violence, right?
Right. I mean, we also see that with LGBTQIA. We see that with religious minorities, and we see that with women as well. So just having to talk about it is causing a big issue. I mean,
Right.
even something as insular as the academic world, having people going like, maybe we can hire professors who are teaching about African studies who aren't white dudes. That might be a good idea.
And what happens? They freak out, right? So
Yeah, like
there doesn't have to actually be a power shift for people to start responding like there was a power shift, is where I'm going with that, right? So to me, when I see something like what he was saying, he's putting it down to money. But when I look at that, what I see is the number of women in politics has now reached that point, even though we're like 25% of Congress or less total.
is enough.
It's enough.
To
right.
feel
Right.
threat.
So,
as a white dude, yeah, I feel very threatened with all the folks in Congress. Super threatened.
See,
All
I
the
think
milk
there's-
toast.
see,
I think
I
we
think there was
got a little bit more video to do. You want to play a little bit more? I mean, we can talk about this shit all day, but we got a little bit more to go. Let's hear Mr. West a little bit. Lou, you mind unpausing for a moment?
And Juneteenth.
YouTube. We're still going on Twitch.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
let's see if we cut the video. Let's see what happens, because I'm sure you might actually.
Yeah,
it might be copyright. Yeah.
But it's on Twitter.
it'll go back up in a minute.
That usually doesn't happen. Something is going on.
Loophole thing there.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi y'all. We're still here, I guess.
Next time we'll do it. We'll have to speed it up.
Or play it in reverse or something.
Yeah.
Flip the shit. Dr. West, he was getting at something, y'all, right?
Right.
So we're gonna go over here. The Chris Hedges report. He put something.
So do you know if we're back on YouTube, or is it streamed? Is it go down indefinitely?
They keep saying it's still got policy violations. Violations.
I'm gonna go into that and find out what's going on real fast.
No worries. I'm gonna talk.
Okay. Do that.
Yeah. So, if Luden, could you bring up the Chris Hedges article? And
she does bring up The Spectacle, which is a really good book, actually.
Yeah. He linked I thought it was funny. He linked the Amazon to the Society of Spectacle. I'm like, man, it's hard all over. Chris is having to do Amazon links for books to, you know what I'm saying?
It's like live
yeah.
from the tech feudalism farm.
This whole thing has some great quotes, and I think at the end of this, go on. Why don't you, Z? Did you want to read through this?
If you can start it off, I'm trying to get this.
Okay,
Going
on still over there. Okay, so the Society of Spectacle. You scroll down a little bit. It goes through.
Okay, we're back.
Okay,
we're back.
All right. Hello.
Welcome back, y'all. We had an issue with that video that we were showing, but we're back and we're talking about.
So if y'all want to flock back, we were getting a good number of people watching. So and then YouTube was like, "Fuck y'all," and then so if you want to come back, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
they knew we had a special guest. That's why they're trying to shut us down.
So, sorry. So Society of Spectacle, which Chris Hedges. This is a Chris Hedges article, but he named it after the guy DeBird. He was like an internationalist socialist, and he wrote this book called Society of the Spectacle, which is really good. It just shows how in a lot of societies, especially when they're going down the drain, people start focusing on what's shiny, and America is a perfect example of just chasing the shiny thing. But if we can scroll down a little bit.
That's a cool ass photo too.
And I agree, Luton. YouTube couldn't handle the fire that Cornell West is spitting.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
See, censorship. There we go. And we're talking about January 6th here. So January 6th, definitely a coup, attempted coup. However, the way especially the liberal media has been playing it out, they have been using it as their only thing for the past 2 years, while they have not done anything to help to remedy the situation that is like causing this. And like we were talking about earlier, America's always been like this for the most part. So for the most part, they're just playing off of something that was already broken. But as we've gotten to the bubbling point, and we saw a bunch of neo-Nazis fucking take over the Capitol last year on January 6th. And the response is, as we heard in the last video, has been milquetoast at best.
Right. I mean, it's kind of, it is important, but it's kind of hard to care when you can't afford food or gas or water. So.
That stuff tends to, like, so that's why Austin asked me to come on. Like, that stuff matters. You know what? We're the ones feeling that, right? But we're not picking up guns to go to. So I'm in Michigan, and everybody in the world saw those pictures of those dudes at the state capitol with their guns, screaming at lawmakers, practicing for what they did on January 6th, right? Nobody forgot those pictures. That shit was terrifying.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Now, if it was just economics, if it was just a question of not being able to afford things, right? Like the risk of that being so much more widespread, like so many more of us would be out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
This is theocrats and oligarchs funding a rebellion.
Oh,
This isn't economics. I mean, economics is maybe what they're using to manipulate a few of them, but this is theocrats and oligarchs. Like, I would like some serfs, and I would like some more people being forced to breed, but by people I mean white women. And frankly, like, just fucking shoot me in the face first, please. I don't want to be your breeding machine. I don't want my kids to be.
That's the there's a book called White Trash that's really good. It talks about, like, it starts at the very beginning of like America, like when whites came over to America, and talks about like how even like husbandry is like a sexual thing in like, because British laws are just like based on like weirdness with the land, and yeah, and they have to control, and everything has to be controlled, and it's just like, holy shit.
No, it's so fucked up. I don't even want to get into how fucked up that part is, because everybody else is getting it as bad or worse. I mean, I guess if you don't define having your husband literally own you, and then they're like, but that's tradition. I'm like, yeah, I know you have a tradition of owning us. Go fuck yourself, right? Like, fuck you. But we'll just put that aside because that's not the point.
Yeah.
What? It's not.
Right. No.
Hey, definitely rage out about that. Now people need to hear that shit.
I'm tired of listening to it. Like, anyway, the point is that it's not just a question of economics. It's theocrats, and it's like when you look at the Koch network, when you look at arms dealers, when you look at how the church has all coalesced together, and then what we're actually seeing is that the attack on education over the last 40 years and the acceleration now has created two different narratives, like I was talking about with Columbia, I think, before we went live. So this country actually has two versions of reality.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree with you on that. And it's not just the fact that they have the theocrats and then they have the capitalists and they've kind of merged together very seamlessly, especially with the rise of the evangelical movement in the 60s and 70s. But, it's also the fact that how institutionalized this particular brand of religiosity is. Because religion as a whole isn't necessarily bad or good. It just it is what it is, But the way that they have found it as a way to continue making profit, to make power, as instead of the potential force for good that it can be, is well, it is a tale that's been repeated throughout time. It's also its specific iteration is entirely unique to the U.S.
Well, and so I agree. And so what I think my bigger concern right now is the level of propaganda and the amount of money for guns. Like, who paid for those guys to go from Texas, Colorado, Illinois to Idaho for one specific pride parade that they were certainly going to have in their state? They could have stayed home and got arrested.
Shit's organized as hell.
It's organized as hell. How's it funded? Why aren't you tracing it? Why haven't you shut down that network? There are only so many ways to fund an insurrection. Why are you allowing this to happen? Have you suddenly decided you don't like your country?
Right. I mean, if the government truly cared about what happened, they would have been tracking this and damning it down just as much as they were the civil rights leaders, But
But they certainly did, didn't they? They certainly did.
Yes, they did. Who did they start with, you think? In the 50s? Yeah.
Way earlier than that. They hung some communists in Hollywood.
Well, they were tracking communist and stuff back to the 1880s when the first communists came over.
I want to say
on that shit.
I want to say it was Hoover, though, J. Edgar, that it really got on steroids.
Yeah.
Now it's on some new fucking steroids that hyper being inundated with lies for some people decades. They've been lied to literally, like, they're 20 years old. That's 2 decades of lies. You know what I'm saying?
It's indoctrination, just the same as it could be with anything else.
It's only gotten more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the article goes into that. It talks about how it's a spectacle to distract us from everything else that's going on. And meanwhile, like, the people who plan the insurrection can keep on doing it because they're kind of being ignored in favor of this spectacle for somebody who, like, it's probably not going to go to prison.
Well, right here, it's like the committee echoes back to Trump opponents what they already believe. It is designed to present an action as action and substitute role playing for politics, and it perpetuates his guide to birth rights, empire of modern passivity. Can you scroll down a little bit?
There's a really good. Go ahead.
I think one thing they could have done that would have really helped. You'll hear people trash the South regular, like, why would they vote for that? Well, like, they didn't. But we're going to put that part aside, too. They didn't vote for that. Lots of people didn't get to vote for that. How many people in Texas literally can't vote just because they spent 30 days in jail?
So there's so many people, like, I'm living in South Carolina. Like, there's so many people that just can't vote around here.
They just can't, right? But then you have to add in what they call the information capture, and that's how you get your indoctrination. Sinclair owns 74% or something of radio stations, and the rest of it's Fox. You go out into these areas, They've been lied to, literally lied to, like you said, their whole life.
Right.
You don't know who's
all
St.
state
Clair.
media.
Oh, I'm from North Texas, right near the Oklahoma border, and St. Clair owns all of the broadcasting stations where I live in the Arkladex region, in the Red River Valley. So the only way you could get outside news is if you go to a public library. And guess what they've been slashing the funding of?
Public.
well, and so to me,
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, are we taking any of this seriously? Because you could have broken up Sinclair. That's a monopoly.
It's a particularly dangerous one too.
Yeah, exactly. That is a particularly dangerous one too.
And it's
That doesn't
spreading
get brought
into
up.
Canada. We're destabilizing the continent. As far as I'm concerned, it is so irresponsible, so dangerous. It's so, why has that not been handled? These are things that should have been top of the list. So are you interested in preserving your republic, or are you interested in spectacle?
They want a corpo-fash state with Christo-fash as like their minions. You know what I'm
God,
saying?
it's so boring.
With their religion as the shiny veneer, and not all religion, but this very, very specific form of religion that excludes
The
everything.
Christo-fascism.
Yes.
Fucking hate those
Which
things.
he wrote a book about that too, because he was.
Yeah.
No, I've read it.
That's a good book.
It's a very good book.
I wanted to redo a video. I want to redo the video I did on that.
But
I would love
we
to
got
talk
more
about
from
that
Mr.
because
Hedges.
I grew up with
There's a paragraph at the bottom of his article that I really want to highlight when we get to it.
Let me read this with one more part real fast, and we can jump down there. Because Andrea said earlier about the oligarchy, and it's talking about the fact that the two established wings of the oligarchy, the old Republican Party, represented by politicians such as Liz Cheney, one of two Republicans on the committee, and the Bush family, are now united with the Democratic elite into one ruling political entity. The ruling parties are already in lockstep for decades on the major issues, including war, trade deals, austerity, the militarization of police, prisons, government surveillance, and assaults on civil liberties. Can you scroll down a little bit? They worked in tandem on to pervert and destroy democratic institutions on behalf of the rich and corporations. They desperately work together now to starve off the revolt by enraged and betrayed white working men and women who support Donald Trump and the far right.
And he's right.
exactly.
They've made this monster, and they just let it go the whole time. That just nothing, just knowing that it's like rising.
And I understand why they support Trump. I don't agree with it at all, but I understand why they do.
Because they're hateful jerks.
Their plan ultimately, right? If you're a defense contractor, what better way to make some more money than some martial law in the United States, man? How fun would that be?
Right.
Is it as much fun as it is going to be for them to be in jail? Would that be fun for them? Do they want to just rot in jail and die for it?
So much cash, like that. That's just
great. I'm sure we can use that cash. So I think arms dealers, specifically the arms dealers, I'm just really pissed off with them and the church and all of them. But specifically the arms dealers, how many human rights violations? Because I'm happy to drop you at The Hague. I'm happy to confiscate all your money. You're fucking baby killers. You're killing you. These kids are playing landmines because you want to get rich.
I literally was talking about this morning. I just looked at my daughter and I was like, man, and I didn't tell her this. I was thinking in my head. I was just like, she's 3, and I was just like, it's crazy. There's a kid waking up today, your age, and is about to get bombed. They don't even know it.
But dude, she's 3. She can't form a memory. You can say that right now.
Don't say that.
Don't do that.
We're child friendly on this channel.
We're child friendly. We just talk about no.
No.
So,
One of the things I personally think religious organizations should all be tax exempt. If they want to be tax exempt, they should fulfill certain requirements, and they should be extraordinarily strict, extremely strict in order to fulfill tax exempt status. It shouldn't be handed off as a matter of course, because they use it as a way to amass wealth and gain political influence rather than actually helping the people that they claim to help. And in addition to passing off these wild theories that are absolutely horrible, the least of which is doubting the pandemic.
Can we go at the bottom of the article? Because it's the thing that Austin wanted to talk about. It's a little bit further down. because I implore everybody, whoever wants to, can go read this article. It's a really good article. But
so it's the one right. The tables started turning. I think this points to an intersection of some economic intersection on this topic, which will lead us into it. Goes the table started turning once what is now the Arizona group. That's what you said. The crowd with orange hats. They came up chanting "Fuck Antifa." Edwards, police officer, told the committee. And they joined that group. And once they joined that group, Joseph Biggs' rhetoric turned to the Capitol Police. He started asking us questions like, you didn't miss a paycheck during the pandemic, mentioning stuff about our pay scale was mentioned, and started turning the tables on us. I think that's very interesting that they're at the Capitol, all that shit, and they say, where's my stimulus check is what the fuck they were saying in a manner.
Yeah, but I thought they weren't socialists. So why do they need a stimulus check? Why do they
It's
need
like,
the
what are
government
you
to
looking
support
for,
them? Like, what are you even doing here? I thought you said that only like communists and who are like liberals and who don't have jobs, but also have like too many jobs or are supposed to work 24 hours a day. I can't really get a handle on what the fuck they're saying, but
I guess they mean like everybody wants everything handed to them, so they're going to go to the White House and then take it. So for themselves.
oh, okay, right? That's. Did that work? Did that work out for them? Was violence the solution there? I don't think it did.
And what's scary, people need to be paying attention to the people who are not getting arrested, because the people who are getting arrested are like just pawns. The people who aren't getting arrested are the people you should be looking out for.
Oh, 100%.
Yep, sitting in the cut. Wait, some folks been jerking off for years about this shit. Oh God, Abiona, the South will rise again with this Viagra.
That could rise again by like Austin. You just.
I'm gonna cut that into a clip.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm feeling a little concerned. I gotta admit, like you try, and there's ways to talk about it, and I'm just like, look, until you get people information, until they have like truth, you can talk all this shit, but until you've actually provided truth, it's never gonna stop. And now they've attacked the schools more, and everyone makes it about economics, but it's actually about education. It's actually about education. Without education and a social, foundation of actual truth, where everybody knows the actual truth, and it's all the same.
And those things, I really think those conversations are like, they're like one-on-one. I think putting information out and podcasts and everything, that's one thing.
So you're the truth is that you're the compost lord.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah, no, but I definitely agree that education is the number one thing, and we can't change the fact that there's like a funding of education at all levels. So we can't change it quick enough in order to make a difference.
And especially
we've got
to like do independent education. That's why podcasts. That's why going to the public library. That's why searching at independent sources and definitely cross-checking them as much as possible.
That's why they're going after the children's schools, because they know.
Yeah, that's so terrifying to me. They're going for the 14th
Amendment. That's where they go. That's where you start. It starts.
No, that's the whole thing. They're starting with the kids. It's just the 14th. They're going after the 14th. Mm-hmm. Once the 14th Amendment is gone, like I just learned this year. The only reason the Bill of Rights applies to the states is the 14th Amendment.
Right. No, 100%. That's the only reason why it applies to the states.
Man,
the 14th Amendment is the only reason why women are considered citizens.
Yep, women, yep. Black people, anyone in fact not with birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
That's in there.
Yeah, anybody who's not a white dude with property, that their citizenship would be invalidated. So the 14th Amendment is probably the most important we have, even more than that of free speech, because free speech is dependent on you being a U.S. citizen.
And like those attacks on those schools and using like trans children, critical race theory that they just fucking made up in their fucking head, like to do it. Okay, so to me, as I watched that play out with the attacks, COVID, you brought it up earlier, Nobi, and it, like the church, there was a reason for that, because without a functioning health system, that's the second leg of what makes a nation. So the first is your schools. The first is your social cohesion, which is schools, and then your health system. So we're at this very critical juncture in America. And when people are talking about things are really dangerous, they're not saying, okay, we're going to have some insurrective activities. Like, yeah, we've been having those for years. We're going to have shooters. We're going to have cells of terrorists. There's a terrorist network from like Pennsylvania, the Carolinas, all the way over to Texas. Those things are already a reality. Those aren't the things that we're talking about as a huge concern. The concern is they're dissolving the idea of a nation.
Right. And unfortunately, we need that idea of a nation. We need a cohesive thing. We need Americans. We need the United States that is so incredibly important in order to be continuing functioning.
Yeah.
Only if you want to function and not kill each
other. Yeah, it's like if that's what you're aiming for, but like I don't think that's the end.
Well, so the thing is that we don't get what Novi and I are talking about without change,
right?
Because America was built on an unstable foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It was from the day one. America was built on an unstable foundation,
right?
And so go ahead, Nobi.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but one of the things I was thinking about is that most countries have revised or redone their constitutions every 50 to 100 years, substantively. Either they've completely tossed out the old one and done a new one, or they've changed it enough so it's no longer really recognizable. And we haven't really done that. And that
originalists and
originalists
people who like to just
we have
translate it.
Evolve. We have to change. We have to
Jefferson
encompass and get equity for everybody and ensure a more perfect union. Either that or we dissolve into chaos, and not the good kind of chaos.
What Jefferson himself suggested every 20 years redoing the Constitution. So there's some originalist shit for you. Right, for a founding father, some people's favorite.
Right, so, he said once every generation, and
I agree.
Yeah, that's something that we need to do.
The reason, for me at least, that I won't say just let it burn, let it fall completely, is because there's 300 million people in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and of that, like, so many of them are kids. How bad is it right now for kids in New Orleans? Kids out in Appalachia. Like, you ever driven through Appalachia? Holy shit.
That is actual
developing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Hookworm. People have hookworm in Appalachia. It's that's supposed to be gone forever.
It's like, so you look at that.
It's a Southern tradition.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have family spread out across the southern U.S. and going up into Quebec, and a lot of them live in poverty, or they, and they have their neighbors who and things like that. And it's easy to say to let the world burn if you're privileged or you have nothing to lose, but there's a lot of people who would not survive. And
or talk about the VA system. How many veterans are supported and alive right now because of the United States Veterans Administration?
Right, and we have a duty as human beings to care for other beings, regardless of whether you have religion or not. That's beside the point at the moment. We're supposed to care for each other.
We're not supposed to just kill 100 million of you, okay? It's out of the question.
Yeah, so we have. So letting it devolve into pure chaos without like some sort of plan isn't really a good idea.
The other thing is this: it's like without. So you'll hear people say, no justice, no peace, but there's actually three parts to that, and the first is truth. Because if you do not have truth, you cannot have justice. Right? But if you do not get justice, then all you've done with the truth bullshit is it's basically like government-sponsored snuff porn, right? Like you're just gonna make us watch all this horrific shit and then do nothing, right? Like they're looking at the residential schools now.
Spectacle.
Are we just gonna talk about that, or are you gonna do something about it? Are you making these families relive that horrific trauma for nothing, for spectacle? Or
No,
you
what they're doing is they're using it to keep everybody else scared. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not scared. I'm fucking horrific. I'm livid. How dare you? How dare you take somebody's babies and do that to them?
Agreed.
Fucking livid.
Agreed.
And then to be like, Biden wouldn't even offer an apology?
100%. And we're seeing that with the January 6th hearings. We're seeing that even with something as simple as the proliferation of true crime docs, which are
That's disgusting.
disturbing, the fact that they're popular. It's
America, violence is great, but sex is bad.
It shows something so fundamentally off about the American psyche that we'd rather watch and enjoy violence than show people in a caring relationship. We'd rather
People love the Coliseum.
You know what? I mean, that's in my opinion, that's a perfect. We're born in this country, born in blood and violence and guts and all that. And of course, in our media, we prioritize hyperviolence. I'm not saying it's influential in behaviors and stuff like that. I'm not saying that video game bullshit.
I was like, you better not, because
no.
I was gonna be like, nah.
Nah.
But yes, if you go to a movie, you're more likely to see violence than sex in the United States, at least. And we also export that stuff. We've been very good about exporting the American brand for
that's true.
A long time.
Our like television is just as has an imperialistic like goal, just like everything else. Like that's why like some of the most like loved shows of all time worldwide are just American like fucking gun shows, and it's wild.
Yeah, sponsored by the military.
Yeah. Yes.
But here's the thing, though. We don't have to do this. Like, that's the other thing. And it's like I've been saying, no, we're not going to burn it all down to the ground. There's too many people's grandmothers are going to die, okay? There's too many kids are going to die, okay? There's already enough people dying. There's enough violence. Like, we have lots of violence, but let's not add more. So, but we can talk about this shit. We can look this shit in the face.
I will point out real quick.
We're maintaining, and the fact that, like we were talking about, it was born in violence, and everything that is keeping people wealthy is maintained by that violence. And until we like confront that, we're not gonna. Everything is going to continue being hyper violent.
It is, and we have to talk about it, and we have to be like listening to each other's shit. Like, it's easy for me to want to say, okay, this is X. Because maybe it doesn't affect me. Maybe I don't agree. But that doesn't mean it's okay for me to do that. And it's just as hard for other people to listen when I say, this is male supremacy. This isn't money. That's bullshit. This is male supremacy, right? It's a hard thing to hear. It's power, right? Money's how we keep track. But it's about power, right? But we gotta listen. And that's hard. So it was really hard for me, especially, because I'm like the most spoiled demographic on the face of the planet, right? Like nobody is more spoiled than white women, right? Like, so it's very hard to learn to listen. But I think we need to, because like I said, if you can't get justice, truth was a waste of your fucking time. And you're not getting justice unless you're like making it happen. Right? So
speaking about combating, violence and the evil that our country perpetuates. We had a story that I don't know if we had time to pull it up. It was talking about how Odessa, Texas went without water. In the
oh my God! Did you?
How is that not violent?
Yeah, but they went without water because they were selling water to a more prosperous county.
I thought they said a water main broke.
Yeah, and the water main broke that was like transporting it, so they couldn't transport it anywhere. You know, so they all worked together to try to get water.
You're welcome.
That's my wife.
Well, I love your wife too. She's great. I like her. Because she thinks
She
I'm
is.
great. Yeah, that Odessa thing that only made it worse. By the way, that actually only made it. What the fuck is wrong with Texas? Seriously, not Texas, not Texans, but
It's gerrymandered to heck. Where basically people are beaten down so much that they either agree with the evil people in power, or they're like, there's no point in trying to fight it, and they're working on grassroots level resistance, or they just stick their hands in the sand. That's all I got to tell you.
it was over 100 degrees the whole time the water was off.
I know, but one of the things that is good about this story, and it's still like a horrifying story, is the fact that the town got together to try to fix the situation, despite the corporations basically causing a mess.
Did he provide any water or anything at all?
Well, you could get bottled water if you went to Midland, but that's 15 miles away, and a lot of people
no, what the fuck? Whatever.
Yeah,
of course they didn't.
But basically, the citizens took them upon themselves to organize to try to fix matters, because the government just didn't do anything.
So I would be actually very interested to see how they accomplish this task. Yeah, because you might see this again here soon in the United States, maybe next summer. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. That's why these plans need to be put into place.
Well, it's just even with the consistent droughts, you see it. Utah, they're talking about it being like a 1,200-year flood or drought. California, 1,200-year drought. Guys, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's gonna be 10,000 next year. Yeah.
One of the problems with Odessa and similar areas is that they have reservoirs, and during times when they have more water, they often sell water to other communities in order to help fund their government. But there's no way of predicting how much water they go for now. So if there's a deficit, or if the pipe doesn't work and they have to use alternate means,
I see.
Stuff like this happens.
Wow. None of the local cities around them just like, hey, I've got water, you take mine.
Well, Midland is a bigger city than Odessa.
There should have been deliveries, right?
And from what I could tell, there hasn't really been anything. There may have been something, but I couldn't find anything online.
There is no sense of community in this country.
Nope.
You will literally watch your neighboring city die. Are you kidding me?
No, Quinn, I agree. I definitely agree. There's a lot of Texans that are brainwashed, but I'm saying that not all of them are.
Yeah,
they're not. Sorry about your sisters.
Yeah, that is truly unfortunate, and I'm very sorry that my home state kind of did that to them. Yeah. There's very few times when I can say I'm proud of Texas, and this is not one of them.
Yeah.
Barbecue.
I mean, we got to be really fair and say that Texas has the same issues with voter suppression and disenfranchisement that every other, state does.
And especially, like you said, that you called it a terror cell earlier.
It is terror cell.
Especially in the South, there's just they just go out of their way to fucking disenfranchise.
Oh no, they disenfranchise people by every means necessary, and there's still threats of violence and all sorts of stuff going on even up until the present day, and it's very common. And it makes it very difficult to do it. And Texas is still, in many places, is still very clannish, especially in the areas where there isn't as high a population between neighboring ranches and stuff going on. So it's a different. It's still very much like a Wild West film, and I don't mean that in a positive way.
But there was that town. Okay, so in 2020, there's a town, I can't remember the name of it, that is just apparently known across the South as being a sundown town. You don't stop in it. It's next to Jasper, Texas.
Yeah, I know it. I don't remember the name, but I know it.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
These kids, teenagers, 18 or something, they want to organize little white kids, little Trump voters, just old enough to vote for Trump, but they don't. Dude's like, I'm not a racist. I'm not a bad person. They want to organize a Black Lives Matter march, right? These white kids in this town that is such a severe sundown town that people like across the South are like, you don't even stop for gas there. It doesn't matter what time it is. Don't even go, right? And so
I'm on vacation home over there for some reason. Science. Never mind.
So it was actually, it was so sweet. These kids were so scared, and they're trying to convince people to come to their town. And I finally said, I don't think you understand that what you're saying is you want Black people to come to your town to protect you from the white people you assume are going to attack you for holding a Black Lives Matter march. Like, I know you're scared. I would be scared. I get it. I'm scared too. I'm scared every time I'm going out for another protest. I'm scared. Like, I understand your fear. But you guys got to hold each other up. You don't need Black people there to prove that you support Black civil rights. But these are young kids, right? Like, they're 18. They're trying to do something. They're very believing in, honestly, the president of the NCAA in the next town over, and one of their preachers apparently did get in contact with them, and
awesome.
they did have a march.
Awesome story. That's awesome though.
I finally, these kids were so scared, and it's Twitter, and everyone's anonymous, but these kids are not anonymous. You know, it's a boy and a girl, and they're friends, and they're just out of high school, and I cried. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I cried. I'm like, I know you're scared. It's okay to be scared. Fear is reasonable in this situation, you know. But they did. They held the march, and it was exactly as terrifying as one would assume it was.
Is it Vidor, Texas?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so.
I just I was looking for it just now. I'm like, I think it's
Yeah,
Vidor.
you don't stop there, like.
I could, I guess.
I'm
not going.
Yeah, if you have to absolutely stop there, you make sure you're with. Well, it's not good. It's terrifying.
It's not, and
terrifying.
So change does happen. That's the point. You know, like, change does happen. These kids were young. They were vulnerable. They didn't have their family wasn't out there supporting them, you know, and then some poor stranger on the internet's like, yo, you don't need Black people there to hold a march. You can just hold a march, right? Like, this is performative. If you really care about Black lives and Black rights, you don't have to get them to come protect you, right? Like, you caring about your own lives right now, which I would too, but they still held it. So I was like, okay, there's hope. Change happens, you know, but we got to support it where we see it. We got to spread that idea that we can reach people.
Right. And I think that's actually a positive thing that we've seen. Like, we've seen a lot of, well, it was always there. The white supremacy, the hypermasculinity, all that was always there. Was definitely going to surge upward, you know, based on our vets. But we've also seen a lot of reaction to that. And the left is starting to organize, which hasn't really been organized since before the purges.
It's almost been 100 years.
Yeah, it's almost been 100 years. So this is a good thing, you know, in a way. If that makes sense.
You're right.
We need to can we just integrate it a little more? We need a little more
some mutual aid
integration. Can we have a little less misogyny, like some less? I'd like to see a little less anti-Semitism in some of these groups. Like, it's not.
Some of these groups are just like, they preach all this stuff, and then you see what they're talking about. You're like, you sound the same as like the other. You sound the exact same.
Right. Like, I get. It's very frustrating when you're talking. You try to work. You're working with people and you organize, and they're like, wait, oh, you're religious or something, or you know, whatever the thing may be, you know, and that doesn't.
We ain't never gonna get shit done.
Yeah, that doesn't really matter in the sense. And why should that person care unless they're being disingenuous? Like if they're secretly a Christo-fascist in disguise, then you should be concerned. But you know, religion
Yeah,
or
that
not, LGBTQIA or not, you know, what it doesn't matter. We all need to fight together to create change, positive change.
And also, we gotta people have to like be like, especially on the left, they were hard about setting those lines. It's like some things just aren't debatable. Some things are just like human being able to live should not be debatable. Like
Yeah.
No.
like I don't like people need to draw that. Like I don't understand what's so hard about drawing that line.
I feel like that's an easy line to draw. And I've gone a little farther on that too. Like, not only do I want people to live, I'd like them to have access to food regularly.
Yeah, I kind of like. I would like people to live and be able to fulfill
Have some
Maslow's
water.
hierarchy of needs.
Well, and there's some things like I think we just try not to talk about and pretend it's not there. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sick and tired of listening to Christians talk about like the hijab. Like, you want to wear a fucking hijab? Awesome. Great. I'm sick and tired of listening to Christians be like, but you're so oppressed. Do this. I'm like, I'm fucking tired of listening to it. Just shut up.
I
Do what you-
honestly feel more powerful with it on. So
Great.
yeah, and
And the fact that you just keep saying religion instead of Islam, like, girl, whatever. If it makes you happy, fucking own it. Like, I'm sick of listening to Christian hegemony tell people they're not good enough. It's not okay. It's enough.
the reason why I
Fucking
say
stop.
the reason why I say religion is because I actually was a Christian missionary and worship band leader before I converted to Islam. So there's a lot of, and I did a lot of research and stuff because at one point I wanted to be a pastor. You know, like I was going to be a historian and a pastor. But I did a lot of research into this, and there's a lot of issues that are the same across our religions, but there's a lot of good too. But you know, lumping it all in, just saying this is something that only one group does, this is something only one group does, it's really missing the point.
Yeah, but I think we need to start drawing these lines. I'm done with it. I'm sick of looking at oppression of any kind. I'm sick of it. Trans lives shit. You wanna come at me with some shit about trans kids? Get the fuck out.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
done.
over all
Get the
this
fuck
shit.
out. You want to talk race? You want to talk religion? Any of it?
Yeah.
But hey, y'all, it's been a little bit. We've been here about an hour, and we're gonna start wrapping things up. First off, Andrea, thank you for coming on. It's been a long time coming. I appreciate you, and
Definitely come back.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciated talking with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you've been awesome. It's great talking with you.
It was so interesting, and I learned many things. So that was great.
Now, do you have anything that you'd like to shout out? Anything you're doing? Anything you can pump? I don't know. You're typing a lot, I assume.
Do what?
I said you're typing a lot, I assume.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really got to start working on comps. I think to me, my big thing right now, I keep telling people is we got to talk to each other. Like,
Build mutual aid.
we need, if you call it mutual aid, but I just call it community building.
There you go.
Right. And we got to stop being scared to look this stuff in the face. That's what I would say. Like, look it in the face. Call it what it is.
Shit, hunt it with a spear.
Yes. No. Less violence. Less violence.
It's a pig, and they are not indigenous to this area. Okay? That's all I got to say.
Okay. My lights are dark. I'm going to go. It was so nice to meet you guys.
Very
nice to
cool.
meet you,
Thank you,
Thank
Andrea.
you.
Bye.
Novi.
Well,
what you got
actually,
coming up?
the next episode of Live from the Empire is coming out on it's a new time, which will be Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will be interviewing Austin. We'll be going into what radicalized him. And we're also going to be talking about the hashtag initiatives they're fighting for in Alabama. Woot! It is so cool that what y'all are doing, and I can't wait to talk about it. Also, in local news, in Baton Rouge, we're actually working with other organizations, including some religious ones, to start working on hurricane preparedness kits to get out to the people who are underserved in advance of the hurricane season. So we're going to be working on that actively over the course of the next few months to try to help keep people.
That sounds cool.
Z, what you got, dog?
I got a couple things going on. I just finished my script for the next Revolutionary Reader. I think I'm gonna put it up as a the actual script up. I'm gonna tweak it a little bit and put it up as an article on Substack, I think, at some point. And me and Andrea are gonna be doing Overlook this weekend. We're gonna be if everything goes right, we're going to be talking to Cause, the new Amazon union that's forming in the Carolinas. So we're gonna be talking to a couple members from them. And then just going to be floating, hopefully until next week. Hopefully, be next week's panel.
Right. Yeah. Oh, one last thing. Coming out next month, I think, on the Substack, I was doing that investigation into the energy crisis, and I come out with the next report, and I'll be compiling that all into one article, and hopefully that'll be out by the end of next month. Okay. Just putting on the finer tweaks and make sure everything's together.
Bet. So, we're gonna play this clip real quick. I got stuff. Sure, there's a lot of shit. I watch my Twitter. I'm there. Anyway, let's play this clip.
We have some merch that we would like to start pushing this, so you guys can start wearing the merch and possibly helping us out a little bit, so we can start keeping the channel going a lot more. They look very well.
Yeah, let's get a vacation home in Victor, Texas, or whatever that is, for a visit.
But I guess we can go ahead and play the video, and then we can just sign out.
Yeah.